Unmute yourself.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so good afternoon. Okay, thank you, you can hear me. Yes, once again, good afternoon to all of you. Thank God we are healthy and we have life. And today we have another interesting topic to discuss. Let's talk about much interesting and can create a lot of problems. We are discussing sex in marriage, managing emotions, stress, and maintaining our psychological well-being. As usual, our housekeeping rules still holds. The moment you join us, please do well to mute yourself. We are going to discuss a sensitive matter related to mental health as usual. So if you get the opportunity to talk, please be as sensitive as you can be. Then again, we have a helpline that is in place now, and the number is 0800-678-678. At this point, I'll let Dr. Emisa, who has always given us a beautiful welcome address, to give us a quick one. Then we would go on. So, Dr. Emisa, the floor is yours. Participants are waiting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Atta, and good afternoon once again to all of us. This is our regular Friday seminar on mental health matters. When Dr. Atta shared the topic with me as well, the flyer, I looked at it and I said, well, I don't know who our audiences are, but I believe in one way or the other, we all would aspire either to be married if we are not already married, or we may be in some form of relationship. And of course, this is a life matter that would be of interest to all of us. So the topic says sex in marriage, managing stress, emotions, and maintaining psychological well-being. I'm wondering, when we are talking about mental health, whether we want to look at conditions that affect us and what some of these risk factors could be, or things that could result in these factors. And I think we have recognized that sex in marriage is an important topic. I hope you can hear me, Dr. Atta.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Good. So this afternoon, it is interesting. We want to discuss sex in marriage because it has become one of the most discussed topics, if you like, in our Christian or religious circles. And people have various schools of thought surrounding it. In society, people think that once you are married, it is a ticket to having sex all the time. So it's, you don't feel bad about it. So of course, then it's going to be something that will be enjoyable or pleasurable, and that will improve your well-being psychologically and all that. But some people also have had a reverse with that. And sometimes you wonder how that is. Is it because they had some mindsets they are bringing into the marriage or the relationship, or is it that their experiences about sex in the past is what is influencing them? So of course, research has also been done on marriage and sex, and I think some schools of thought think that sex binds the couple together because it is an intimate thing, and then it improves their relationship, and then it improves, or it gives a higher chance of them becoming happier and all that. But I'm happy that this afternoon we have some seasoned resource persons here with us who will do justice to some of these ideologies or schools of thought. And then, of course, we being individuals and the way we've been socialized, probably we can pick some factors from here which will support our positions, or which will help us improve our positions, to at the end of the day give us a different or a new perspective about sex in marriage, or marriage in sex, whatever you want to call it. I believe the equations can be changed either way. So Dr. Atta, I'm happy that we are discussing this, something that I'm interested in. I find myself somewhere, but I'll try and be connected to it so that I can also, get some glimpses of some of the ideas and comments that will come up. I encourage all of us to be, interactive. Let's be on the program. Don't just connect and go away. And if you can't hear at a point, you can put in your chat so that we can all pick it up probably at the end of the session and discuss. I believe at the end of the day, we will learn new things, which we can also help to encourage others or improve their psychosocial well-being. So thank you very much, Dr. Arthur. Thank you. You have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Misa, for, as usual, you're wonderful. Galaxy, I think you are the only one who can't hear because I could hear her. I could hear her. So yes, thank you, Dr. Misa. In the simple term, simplistically, sex is meant for reproduction, to experience pleasure, and to have pleasure. And again, to relieve some sort of sexual tension.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
To release sexual tension. But several theorists have suggested the motivations when it comes to sex. That there are emotional motivations where one needs love, one needs commitment, one needs attraction, and so therefore the issue of sex comes in. There is those that will be interested in using it to achieve a goal, to get resources, to uplift their social status, and even to seek revenge. There is those that are impacted by sociocultural factors for prestige, for status, or reputation, and all that. But in marriage specifically, that is what we are talking about. We are not just being moralistic in this case. From what I'm saying, you can, Ike, you can hear me. Ike, is my voice, is my sound okay?
I think you're a bit distant.
I'm a bit distant, eh?
Yeah, so if you can get a bit closer to your device.
Is it okay now?
We'll take it like that. It's okay. It can be louder, but it's okay.
Because I've increased my volume to the fullest.
Maybe the distance between you and your device.
Oh, the device is a few inches away from me.
Okay, that's fine.
You can see my.
I think it's better now. It's better now.
Okay, probably I have to do this so that you can get it clear.
Yes.
And when I do this too, I don't feel comfortable.
It's better. Mm.
Okay. So, and in marriage to. Okay. I think it's better now. In marriage to issues with bonding, commitment, love, affection, closeness, factors including sex has enhanced this bonding and all that. But for us in the mental health space, we are interested in our mental health. So that you look at other professions have some serious perspective when it comes to sex. The sports people have a different perspective on how many times, how often, how close you have to do it, close to a competition. Dancers, when they go into the showbiz, they all have their unique perspectives. But for us in the mental health space, we want to look at the mental health aspect of it. That is why we are looking at the stress and the emotion and the psychological well-being. It's a broad topic. So I'm pretty sure we had a discussion yesterday and we might have to do several parts of it. So we are going to take it slow today and make sure that we digest all the issues. And when we are not able to do that, we will do another session of it so that at least for those of us who are not married, will feel comfortable to be part and join and be able to share their ideas. So, as usual, we have some good facilitators to join us to do justice to the issue. And those of us who were here last month saw Dr. May Wolf Caesar. She's a consultant clinical psychologist with over 10 years experience in organizational teaching and consulting. She's done that over the 10 years. She's the director and founder of Equilinks Consulting Services, a service that provides therapy and psychological support for individuals in distress. Again, she's the CEO of EquiConsult and Organizational Development that carries out evaluations and trainings to increase productivity and efficiency for organizations. And you'll find her clinic at Sakumo, Tema. She's the consulting psychologist for EcoBank Ghana and Tema Parents Association School, and also founded Teddy Bears Playhouse and Nursery School in Tema. Dr. May Wolf Caesar, can we hear your voice?
Hello, Dr. Wankwa.
Okay, good. You are there. You are there. Our next able facilitator, senior, I call him senior, just between the two of us. He has over 12 years of clinical experience in managing medical and mental health related issues, worked with several government and private health institutions, corporate organizations, online services for local and international clients. Currently, the acting director of the Medical Directorate at the UPSA, University of Professional Studies, the Public Relations Officer for Ghana Psychological Association, does part-time lecturing and consultancy, and also a media personality. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur, Senior. Hi.
Thank you, Senior.
And finally, we have Dr. E.A. Azusong. Dr. Azusong Atue Senior is a psychiatrist and a clinical psychologist currently working at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, where he has worked for the past 4 years. He's the head of crisis resolution and home management team responsible for psychiatric emergencies and often at the client's home. He's a member of the Ghana Psychological Association and West African College of Physicians, a Sunday school teacher, passionate about youth development and growth, married with 3 children, loves to play football and watching it as well. Dr. Azusong, let's hear you.
Yes, Dr. Atta.
Unmute yourself. Good.
Yeah, here I am.
You are there. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, our facilitators are ready. I would ask each of you, so the same thing, from your experience as a consultant, tell us the interesting case and or the most confronting one, which should tell us that sex is a matter, is a confronting issue, is a serious matter when we come to married couples. So let me start with you, Dr. May.
Hi.
Ladies first anyway, so I'm trying to be, I don't want any problem here.
I hear you.
Uh,
Thank you, Dr. Arthur. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, he's right. Sex is such a big issue in marriage. And when there's a problem with that area of marriage, we are likely going to get a lot of anxiety a lot of depression, people will make very bad decisions. Some they regret a lot. And then again, we have conflict, not just between the married couple, but extended family. And so one case that really stands out for me, some time ago, I met with a couple. They had come for help, and the marriage was on the verge of breakdown. So when they presented with the problem, it turns out, okay, so this is the problem. The woman suspected that her husband was having an extramarital affair, and so he was not doing the needful at home. So of course, she started to feel that she didn't matter to him anymore. And so of course, it brought up tensions. And then the man stopped sleeping in her bed, in the marital bed, and then stopped coming home entirely. She found out later that he was staying with somebody she knew. So then she suspected that this friend was the one he was having an affair with. So eventually they came for help. And she said to me that she had discovered some aphrodisiacs in his car glove compartment. So that confirmed her suspicion. This man was doing the thing outside and was using all these things, let me put it this way, to enhance his activities outside. But when I listened carefully, I realized that the man was actually experiencing something that we hardly ever talk about, which is like a seasonal sexual dysfunction amongst men. And because he couldn't rise to the occasion, let me put it that way, he couldn't perform, he started to stay away from the woman, because when she would reach out to him, he felt he couldn't tell her what was going on, you know? So he stayed away from her, started sleeping on the couch. And then when she started saying that you have been with somebody else, that's why you're not coming into the bed, he started staying away from the house. So you can see the progression. So before long, the family heard about it, the church heard about it and everything. But when I looked at it, I asked her, do you know whether he was using these things to actually enhance activity with you? Because perhaps he was having issues that had lowered his sex drive. You know, so this is how, when there's no sex in marriage, we can think, like they say, thinking very far. We will tell our friends, we will tell our family, we will tell our pastors, we will tell our church leaders. And before you know it, a very good marriage would come to an end. So this is one of the things that I would like us to address, how important sex in marriage can be. Because if there's no sex, even if the man is pretending, you know, it has to come in order to keep that family together, a couple together.
Okay, thank you for sharing that knowledge from your consulting room with us. Let's hear Dr. Azuso.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to today's sex brunch, I would want to call it. It's a hot afternoon, a very cool one. And so for me, one of the very commonest cases I see in my consulting rooms are the issues of my husband likes sex too much, and all the time he wants to have sex, and he just jumps onto me and he wants to have sex, and I'm in pain, and he does not care about how I feel and all of those things. It's a very common issue that I see in the consulting room. But then usually how I go about this is to let the man especially understand that whereas the man is a gas cooker, the woman is what? Is an electric cooker. And so it takes time for the woman to reach the desire phase and to be ready for sex, because there are various physiological changes that go on in the woman and in the man as well. But a man can quickly be turned on, whereas a woman cannot easily be turned on. And so if a woman is not turned on, her vagina is not going to open.
Hold your fire. Hey, Master, hold your fire.
All right, I'm going to
hold
hold
your
on my
fire.
fire. Yes.
Hold your fire. So the most basic problem that you find in your consulting room is men having more libido, high libido than the women.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much. Hold
Yeah.
your fire. Dr. Newman, Isaac.
Yes, so I think that mine too is the opposite. You know, you have women who have, you know, a high sex drive, and a man doesn't. I remember a man ran to my consulting room complaining that the wife, you know, loves sex too much, and that, you know, their house is closer to their workplace. So sometimes the woman will intentionally go in the afternoon during break to the house and call him to come home for something quick. And sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, you know, the woman will want to have sex with him. So he was running away. So he came to me wondering what he should do. And I told him he should shut up and go back, because what he's running away from is someone else's prayer topic. So you may have that. And I think another thing to high sex drive with women, one of the classic cases I had was a woman who, she's in her 30s, and she actually was raped at age 14. And that rape really dealt with her, and she became, very, very loose with sex. You know, had multiple sexual partners. And she has a very high sex drive, you know, and she feels loved anytime she has sex with people. You know, so that is also to the extreme. And she's very, very sensitive to things, especially when it comes to sex. So these are some issues too that personally among women. But there are some women who really have a very, very high sex drive. And some men are running away from them, actually.
Okay. So we are talking about sex in the marriage now. So from your experiences, you realize that the cases are different. It has different angles, and there can be problems. And when the problems rear its head, it can be challenging and very daunting for the marriage. Okay, so let's come to the benefits itself, the benefits of a more compromising sexual relationship between the couple. Mutually understanding, they are compatible. They are compatible. What are the benefits of this relationship between the couple? Dr. May, then again, let me start with you.
Okay, so with the story I told earlier, here we had a lack of sex, which was causing problems because the woman felt unloved. So again, we see that when a couple are able to engage in sex, and you use the word mutually, it actually causes them to bond even closer. And in couples therapy, I usually tell clients, especially when you've had a fight, go and have sex, because it's very difficult to stay angry with your partner, your husband or your wife, after you've been very intimate, you know, and it works. So then sometimes you have couples telling you that our relationship is really bad, but in the bedroom, we're good. So at least in the bedroom, you're going to be quiet. You're not going to be fighting. And after the sex act, you can actually discuss the issues that were causing the conflict. You know, so besides being something that is pleasurable for both people, it helps to foster closeness, and also to allow people to express themselves a lot better, because your husband is unlikely to be upset with you when he is, you know, enjoying what is going on. And even though women have been described as insensitive sometimes, because they can ask men all kinds of awkward questions during the show, it still is a time for a woman and a man to feel that closeness. So for me, this is one of the benefits of having sex in marriage.
Well, I have been told this funny story that when the woman is naked, don't make promises, because when at that time your head is not working.
That is so true.
your head is not working. So after that, you realize that no, that was the wrong promise I made. you were asked tricky questions at that time. Yeah, so yes, it helps in resolving conflicts and foster closeness and being able to allow couples to express themselves much better. Dr. Azuson,
Yeah.
what's your take on that?
So I just want to follow up on when the woman is naked. You know, the reverse is also true. When a woman is having an orgasm, at that point in time, she can say all sorts of things, and she can spew out all her secrets that you want to hear. And then even afterwards, when you are asking her, she might not even remember that she was saying all of these things. And so back to the question with regards to the benefits of sex. Asking someone the benefits of sex is like asking what are the benefits of food or the benefits of drinking water, because sex is an essential and physiological need that everyone has to get or everyone needs. And if you look at Maslow's theory of needs, it puts sex under the base. It puts sex as one of the physiological needs. So just like the benefits you would get from water, from food, from air, these are the same benefits you would derive from sex. And in the context of marriage, I would want to say that having sex increases your intimacy and affection for your partner. The goal of every marriage is to foster unity and foster love, and to ensure that the relationship lasts as long as it can. And one way in which you can do this to ensure that your intimacy and your love for each other continues is to have sex. And so it produces what we call a feedback loop, where when you have sex, it increases your affection, and the affection would cause you to have what? More sex. And so anybody who is having more sex would continue to have what? More sex. In addition to that, we know that women who are usually breastfeeding, they have this very strong bond to their children. And the particular hormone that is usually released during this breastfeeding period, which is oxytocin, is the same that is released during sexual encounters. And so when you are having a sexual encounter with your partner, oxytocin is released. And this oxytocin would unconsciously cause you to become more bonded to the person. And this explains why in a lot of cases, some women would say that, I was a virgin and I was going out with this particular person. And all of a sudden, when we had sex, now I cannot get over the person. The reason you cannot get over the person is because of the oxytocin. It's because of the bonding that sex has produced. Other benefits, which I would also want to touch on, is the fact that a lot of women would give excuses like, I do not want to have sex because I have a headache. On the contrary, sex is an analgesic, and sex is a painkiller. If you do have your sex, the migraine would go away. If you do have the sex, the cluster headache would go away. Sex also boosts our confidence, and during sex, you have a lot of physical activity that is going on. And so sex is equivalent to having a 30-minute moderate exercise. And if you are saying that you do not want to, you cannot engage in a game of football, or you cannot go jogging, you cannot run, your best alternative is to have sex in the morning. And once you have the sex in the morning, it's equivalent to having physical exercise, which makes you more healthy. And to our women, I would end here, to our women as well. If you want to look younger, you need to have what? More sex, because sex makes you glow and it makes your skin more beautiful and attractive. I would pause here and.
Thank you, Dr. Azuson. You have said things powerful. Let me divert a little bit. You know, this sex matter, we've not trained, or culturally we've not been talking about it. but it looks like it is pervasive now. Is there any psychological underpinning to this pervasiveness that we see in our communities and society now? Ike?
Yes, before I get to that, let me just add one more about the benefits.
Okay.
Usually, men have 3 core needs. Basic core needs for every man is peace, pleasure, and support. You know, it is in peace that men dream. It's in support that the dream is established. But it is in pleasure that the man is refreshed to pursue the dreams. So usually, when a man wants to achieve, wants to do well, sex is one of the boosters. So it's one of the things that makes men able to dream and able to pursue their goals for the next day. It refreshes people, couples, to be able to pursue their whatever they want to do. And so even for stress and sex, you realize that sex is one of the stress relievers. You know, what it means is that the day you are tired is when you must have some level of sex, because sex will rather deal with the stress. Usually when couples are stressed, they don't want to have sex, but sex rather will deal with the stress. So that is what I want to add to it. Yes, and
Okay.
I think that it's more difficult to talk about sex when it comes to sexual perversions, because people use sex for many things. One is the pleasure aspect of it. Because sex is pleasurable and usually is mediated by, you know, dopamine and those neurotransmitters. You know, if you look at dopamine and the effects of dopamine on addictions and pleasure and all that, you know, sex is become pervasive because of the pleasure associated with it. So people have sex because of the pleasure, and it does not matter the sexual activity and what it is. So far as they derive some pleasure from it, it becomes very, very, very difficult for them to stop. So some people who are involved in some pervasive sexual practices continue it, though they know it may not be okay socially, morally, it may not be okay medically. They still go ahead to do it because of the pleasure relating to it. Secondly, you know, people use sex to cope with various life situations. So they may be involved in some sexual activity which may not be okay. Yet they keep doing it because it becomes one of their coping strategies. So coping with the past and pain. You know, some people may have some traumatic, you know, experiences, some, you know, issues going on in their life. And one of the coping strategies they have adopted is sex. And it doesn't matter whether it's pervasive or not. And again, because of this, when someone is engaged in any pervasive sexual practices, it becomes difficult to talk about it. You know, because of the benefits they are deriving from pleasure and coping with some life-related problems, it becomes difficult. So, for example, you have a child, you know, maybe a teenager, or maybe a young adult, and she's quite pervasive about things. It was difficult to tell them not to continue because of some of the things that, you know, they derive, the benefits they derive from it. Benefits, but those benefits are more like a dysfunctional way of coping with life situations. Then again, you know, because of peer influence and societal influences, you realize that some normalization of pervasive sexual practices has come to stay. So in those days, there are things that people do that may not be okay. You know, in terms of culturally, morally, may not be okay. But the more society accepts those practices, the more it comes to stay, the more people hear about it and even learn about it. And it becomes more difficult to deal with it. So, for example, in marriage, you realize that, you know, the normal sexual relationship in marriage may be some kind of vaginal penetration and stuff like that. You know, then probably if there's some romance or intimacy, you may do other things. But things has to do with anal sex and stuff. And as anal sex is one of the most dangerous kind of sexual activity, because the anus really was not made for penetration. You know, and things like that. So you may have a man who has anal sex with a wife, you know, and that will cause problems. Anal sex is very, very dangerous. You know, infection transmission there is about 4 times more than even the vagina. And you may have, you know, the distraction of the anal sphincter and all that. Even cancer, you know, anal cancers go up about 20 to 40 times when someone has an anal sex. So it doesn't matter whether a man is sleeping with a woman through the anus or a man is sleeping with another man through the anus. right? Any form of anal sex is actually injurious to a person's health. When it comes to even transmission of HIV and other sexually transmitted infections, you realize there's about 4 times more through the anus than through the vagina. But it's difficult to talk about it because if someone has those kind of sexual activities, they derive some pleasure, some satisfaction there. So it becomes more difficult to talk about it. And the more society accepts such sexual practices, the more it comes to stay. Then probably I'll finally add that, generations change, and ways of doing things actually change. And when typical traditional way of doing things is tempered with time, it becomes the norm, and that can create a lot of problem for spouses. And unfortunately, there are a lot of spouses who are going through some health issues because of some sexual practice, but they really cannot talk about it because it's quite sensitive. Going to the hospital to complain about some sex-related things about your marriage sometimes becomes very, very difficult. And the stigma relating to it and how sensitive the issues are, can, make some perversive sexual practice continue for a long time until the impact becomes very, very great. And medically, they cannot really survive. Then they report to the hospital for some form of help. So some of these things are there. And that can, continue what you call perversive sexual practices. Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
that is a good. That is a bit of tough love information that you provided there.
Come on, if I may just add something, please.
Okay.
Sorry, and talking about how prevalent it is or how pervasive it is.
Yes.
Dr. Atizong said that it was as basic a need as food or drink or shelter, and that's true. And then when we look at the fact that you pay money for food, you pay money for shelter, but most often sex, like they say, is for free, unless of course you have to go to the purveyors of sex, the ladies of the night. So if it's there, especially if you go to neighborhoods such as, Chocolate fishing villages, sex is free for young people. You don't have to spend money on it, if anything at all. Maybe you buy the girl a toffee or something, and it doesn't need a lot of money to acquire. So this is a kind of pleasure that is quite cheap. So especially during the COVID, when people were stuck at home, what were they doing besides watching TV? Especially those who were not working, sex was the thing that they engaged in because it took away a lot of the stress and anxiety and instead gave pleasure. So sex is prevalent now because we see it on TV. We see sex mirrored in ads, in movies, in songs, video clips. Sex is portrayed in just about everything that we engage in the world. From when you open your eyes in the morning to when you go to bed at night, sex is being thrown at you. So of course, it's going to become pervasive. It's going to be everywhere. And people are going to engage in it because it's free.
All right, so we have a tricky situation on hand there. But to the topic again.
Can I add on to this before you?
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, so Dr. Atta and then Dr. Cesar have said it all. But then again, it poses the question of everybody has sex, but nobody really wants to talk about sex because of how our culture and society is. And so sex has 4 different stages, and it starts with the desire. And the desire of sex occurs through the senses. And so in all our senses, from our ears, from what we smell, from what we see, and even what we taste, you can stimulate sexual desire during these particular periods. And so the kind of music we hear, the kind of movies that children watch, the kind of activities they engage in, and the kind of learning they hear from their colleagues would all make sex very pervasive. But unfortunately, therein lies the problem for our nation. People are learning sex from the wrong sources. People are learning sex from the internet, which is entirely very wrong. There are a lot of people who, even before their marriage, during their counseling, they are not taken through the process and the right way in which sex ought to be done. And everybody thinks that once you are a human being, you should know how to have sex. But it is not true, because the act of sex is an art. And this art, you need to learn it. So nobody gets up and knows how to have sex the right way and knows how to derive sex from the best pleasure from sex. And that is where counselors come in. But unfortunately, it does not happen. The people who are allowed to promulgate sex are the drug peddlers in our buses, are the imams and the malams who sell the concoction. But doctors and counselors shy away from even discussing sex. So it is imperative for us as a nation that we need to push the idea of right sex in the right context. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to our topic for discussion for today. We've digressed a bit, which is important. You've mentioned it in bits and pieces, but I want you to be specific. I'll start with you, Ike. To what extent does sex contribute to the reduction in stress and managing the psychological well-being? To what extent?
Okay, so I think in three ways. One, anytime sex is not going well in marriage, it's likely that there may be some psychological issues going on in the marriage that is preventing the sex. Two, and it may also be the fact that the sexual activity itself may not be pleasurable enough or may not be done well to the satisfaction of the other partner. And that situation itself can cause some psychological problems. Then again, it depends on the resources and things that are available to deal with those problems that can either, help the person's psychological well-being or not. So, for example, the first instance I talked about, you realize that when there are a lot of marital conflicts in the house, or there are some financial problems or work-related problems or some stresses in the house, it can actually affect a person's intimacy or sexual relationships. So until that is done, until that is fixed, you realize that all the sexual activity and intimacy that must go on, it may not be able to go on the way it should. Then when there is infidelity and all those things are a way of affecting, sexual relationship, amongst couples. Then again, so what it means is that sex which is supposed to be of a benefit to that couple, they may not be able to derive that benefit because there are, already there are some prevailing problems that may be going on in the marriage. Then again, when sexual satisfaction, what it means is that everybody and what they like and what becomes, optimum sex for them. So you have a spouse, they have their own sensitive, parts. They have how sex should go for them. They have their own unique way of responding to sex. So if the partner does not know about all those things and does not communicate with the spouse, and they are not ready to learn and be able to meet each other in terms of fulfilling each other's sexual desire, that situation can also serve as a source of psychological problem that can affect, the couple, when it comes to sex and sex-related issues, But if all those things are not there, right, or they have a better way of coping with it, then sex becomes beneficial. Because like we said, all the neurobiological changes that happens, with dopamine, with oxytocin, with luteinizing hormones, with testosterone, and all those, neurochemicals and also hormones in the body, they have what they do. So the pleasure, the happiness, the sleep you know, and what do you call it? Reduction, you know, dealing with stress. Endorphins would help with pain and even stress and stuff like that. All those things have a way of creating that well-being, you know, psychological well-being for the person. It may not be situational, but it may just be the presence of all those neurochemicals that is making the person feel good about themselves and dealing with all those stressful situations. And in sex also, we talked about creating bond and stuff amongst couples. You know, so the more bonded they are, the more wellness they feel, the more they are able to talk to each other, they're able to resolve problems, the more they're able to reduce conflicts and stuff like that. You know, so everything around sex, you know, can, you know, contribute to the general well-being of the person. Whether sex goes well or it doesn't go well, it can either negatively impact on their psychological well-being or positively impact on their psychological well-being.
Amir, the way you are shaking your head looks like you want to top it up. You have the floor. Go ahead.
Dr. Newman is right, you know, because when someone is not happy, and it could be something unrelated to the marriage, maybe at work, you know, so of course, if they're not happy at work, maybe they were bypassed for a promotion or something, you know, they are going to come home with this stress. Now, it's good to know what the signs and symptoms of stress are. So for instance, we know that you may have sleep problems, you may be very irritable, you may even experience bouts of depression, anger, and even some physical things like headaches. So now you come home with all this wahala, and then you have a problem, you can't even get an erection. Or if you're a woman, you can't lubricate enough. You know, it's definitely going to cause problems. So if we are able to look at how these things can be compartmentalized and put aside, and then at least engage in some intimacy, we will see that we will be reducing the stress and we will be reducing anxiety. And as Dr. Azuzon said earlier, it's a loop, you know, so you go back and forth. If I can feel good about myself, I can handle my stress better. If I can feel good from sex, then of course I can go to work and deal with that irascible boss or supervisor, you know, so it does work this way, both ways. If your well-being is good, in a good place, your mental health is in a good place because of sex, you are very likely going to do well at work. And if you're able to handle the stress and anxiety, you will be able to also perform better, and you will not have your wife complaining. You will not have to resort to headaches and stomach aches and feeling cold and feeling hot and all kinds of excuses that both men and women use to avoid the intimacy. So it is a two-way street for psychological well-being.
Indeed, it is a two-way street. So if things are not going well, I mean, I like that bit that you said, if things are not going well at home, you need to manage and put it aside, enjoy yourself, because that one will help with the emotional and psychological well-being. And when you're able to do it too, you're able to have that peace of mind, that energy, that mental energy to be able to—
Because you're going to get the released hormones, yes.
To address the problem at hand. The questions have started coming, but we would address them shortly. Let me ask one question before I go to the questions that have started coming in. Sexual anxiety, both on the side of the man, on the side of the woman, sometimes body image, or sometimes for the man, performance and all that. How are such issues addressed? How are such issues addressed? Is there a way out? Is there a way out of this anxiety if the man is not able to perform, or the woman has an issue with body image, and for that matter, you know, always finding excuses to avoid the situation? Is there a way out to this problem? Maybe, let me see, Azuzon has not spoken for a while. Let me see if he has an idea about it.
Yeah, so it's very important. And if you look at sexual anxiety, you can look at it in two ways. So most of the time, men would have performance anxiety. And so with the performance anxiety, they are anxious about how I am going to perform. How am I going to make the woman happy? The woman thinks probably that we are all adults here, and so I can use the word as it is. The woman probably thinks that my penis is small, and so because of that, I am afraid as to how I am going to do it. The moment you start thinking about this, you start to feel anxious, and it inhibits your ability to perform rightly. You know, and that in itself alone is a misconception. So usually when I get cases like this of men who have performance anxiety, you first of all have to erase that myth that if you have a small penis, you are unable to perform very well. You know, it's a myth.
So, Azusa, not to cut you.
Yeah.
Isn't it sometimes the words, attitude, or behavior of the woman during the act that gives men the anxiety? Because I've heard stories from men who say that, if I'm with this one, I relax and everything happens. But if I go here, another sit up.
That is very true. And that was when Dr. Niemann was talking about if it is done well. You know, if it is done well, you are not likely to have issues. But if it is not done well, and the woman,
but if it is done well, if I go here, the same energy, the same body I take here, he goes here, he's okay. He comes here, he's not okay.
So it is different. It is the entire process of sex. It is the entire process. So first of all, we are talking about the desire, the excitement, the orgasm, and the resolution. All of these individual stages need to be done very well. And most of the time, it is not, like you said, it is not about only the performance. It is not about the suhum saham. No, it is about all the procedures and acts that even come before the suhum saham. And if you understand it and know how to do it, then you will be able to satisfy your woman irrespective of the size of the penis. Because a lot of women would want foreplay, but the men do not give them the foreplay. And so I'm sure we would enter into the act itself and how it should be done and all of those things. But let me not digress on the question that you asked me with regards to the anxiety issues. Most men would have performance anxiety based on what the woman tells you. And so in his previous experiences of sex, the woman said, so is that all? These things are like passing a dagger through the heart of a man. You have demeaned the man. And so it is likely more difficult for the man to even get an erection in your presence. But Dr. Niemann earlier said that you need peace in order to be able to get erection. If the man goes to another woman who calms the man down and relaxes the man down and touches the right erogenous zones, which we would come more into, because you need to touch the right spots in order to get the right satisfaction. And if another woman who touches the zones is able to help the man to get the right.
Benedicta, please mute yourself. Benedicta, please mute yourself.
In such situation, then the sex can go on as planned. Women, on the other hand, may sometimes have phobic anxiety, fear of what is to come, because they are not satisfied within themselves how their body looks. They are not satisfied within themselves the shape of their figure. And all of these things, there are several reasons that can account for it. And so they would want that, the light should not be turned off. I want you to do it in this particular way, and I want you to do it in that particular way. That is one end. Another side of the spectrum is that a lot of women, if they are not stimulated enough during foreplay, like I was saying earlier at the beginning, the vagina is not a hole that is always present. It is a potential space. In the absence of sexual excitement, the walls of the vagina close like this until you stimulate the woman into excitement. It then begins to open. And so if you do not excite the woman during foreplay and you start with the sexual act itself, the woman is going to have pain. The pain is not going to be pleasurable to the woman. And so next time, if you are going to come, the woman is not excited about the entire process of sex. So these are things that are very important, and we need to understand them to help us relieve the anxieties that come up with sex. And I'm sure as the discussion goes on, we will go into details with regards to the process and how it needs to be done well.
Thank you very much. So, May, pick it up from where he ended, so that how is anxiety dealt within a couple? We are not yet able to come and see you, but between the two of us, what simple ways can we do to help ourselves?
Okay, so thanks for the question. This usually, again, when men feel that, okay, their wives, we're talking about sex and marriage. So again, I have to bring it into the union. But when a man feels that the woman is not responsive enough, it's what is the reason? What is the idea behind this coldness or this frigidity? So is it intimacy or sex? Sometimes we confuse the two. When a woman is in her menstrual flow, men are able to, stay calm and wait. For some reason, they are not able to stay calm and wait when she's not. But the thing is to try to get that woman into that place, what we call the foreplay. So if you are bent on giving her pleasure, in making her relax, it is true that but at the end of the day, you want to have fun. So you have to make sure that the receptor is receptive. She may have things on her mind, or he may have things on his mind. So let's put the act of sex again aside. Work on the intimacy, get the person into the mood, get the person to put the anxieties behind them. And then when we are both calm, we can go. If it happens that you are not able to engage in, okay, we are all adults here, in the intermission, then it will have to wait for another time. But if we force it, then we are going to have the pain. Then we are going to have the woman not wanting to engage again. Then you'll start calling her names and say she's another man. So we need to remember these things, that if we do not get ourselves into the right place, when we started, I think what Dr. Isaac or Dr. Atchison said, women are electric and men are gas. Yes, it takes time. So even when you're seeing your man, he's getting there and you are not getting there, you're going to become more anxious. It's not going to help the situation. So you take the sex act away, put it down, put that person in the place so that the rest of it can go smoothly. So we have our desire phase, arousal, as Doctor was saying. Yes, but we need to be ready for the third phase, the actual sex act. If we are not, it's not going to happen for anybody. And she doesn't want to do it again, that's your loss as well.
She is talking for the woman.
You want me to talk for the men? I will.
Yeah, talking for them.
Want to add to this anxiety thing, because you see, I am thinking that this anxiety thing, it is what I say or what she says is what will cause that anxiety to most extent. I am thinking, so yes, there could be that outside factors, premarital relationship issues that could impinge upon the relationship currently. But yes, now it's just the two of us. What has happened in the past has happened in the past. It is not the two of us. And what I say, what you say, is what affects both of us. That will cause the anxiety. in that stead, should we be mindful? Or is that is when the faking also comes in, isn't it?
Yes, you see, so I'm saying, so be mindful that if I
That's
have to fake, you see,
So like, because it's kind of, I've been thinking about this anxiety thing because I wonder where it's coming from. There's a past relationship could impact on the current situation. We'll come to that anyway, but what's your take on this anxiety thing and what do you think couples should do?
Yeah, I think basically it's what do you call it? It's what each other communicates to each other. I think that is where the problem is. So, for example, if your spouse makes you feel good about yourself, even though you are not performing well, or even her words or assurances, his words or her words and assurances, it makes you able to do better the next time. So I think words really, really matter, when it comes to sex and sex relationships. So, and also your ability to communicate how you feel exactly to your spouse in a way that is more encouraging instead of more condescending. It can become, because words really, really, really matter. So whatever you are telling them, during the process helps. And that is why, when people are having sex and there is some response in sex in terms of what the woman or the man says during sex, the moaning and all those things, those things have a way of boosting the person's confidence. And that is why some people are totally turned off when the woman is silent. Some couples will come and say, or the horse said, dear. Sex, like you said, sex is an art. So all those things that people say and do during sex and all that, it's a way of affirming the person that maybe the person is trying the best. Because it's not really easy to be able to go through the whole process and do well. That whatever you say to the person helps. And especially amongst, let me try to use Christian populations, where a lot of Christians have a very negative perception about sex. I remember there was this couple, I think the guy is an elder, and one way the wife says, Doctor, Oba missionary but church elder, imagine church elder mourning. It's difficult. There was a wedding where the Sofmami sitting in front was crying throughout the wedding ceremony. The pastor, his husband was preaching, and the woman was crying throughout the session. So when they finished, the church elders went to this Sofmami. Sofmami, now what's up? You have been crying. Well, what is wrong with you? I said, I didn't know that my husband knew all these tips. So I think that words matter. And let me just say this about anxiety also. See, when performance doesn't go well, it may not be the fact that your spouse is not doing well. It may mean that you have too many experiences such that your spouse's, performance is not good enough. So that is what creates the difference. So the same person goes to another woman, does so well, comes to a spouse, does not do well. It may be because the other person has too many experiences with too many people. So research will tell you that, if you have multiple sexual relationships, especially before marriage, your husband may not be good enough. Though he is good, he may not be good enough. And that also creates a lot of anxiety for them. So you may not be satisfied because you are too experienced. And sometimes when your spouse, people read, the actions of your spouse during sex. And sometimes even they're thinking about, hey, so if he can do this, hey, husband can do this, hey, our experience, so hey, all those things are running through the person's mind because you are too experienced for your spouse. That can create problems. Then again, too, if I may add, if anybody has had traumatic sexual experiences in the past, it creates anxiety for them. So pain, or what do you call it? When they have been raped or they have been sexually abused before, or anytime they're having sex, they have pain, or they have some infections down there and all that. Those kind of psychological problems and even physical health issues can create anxiety for the spouse with the next sexual encounter. But if you communicate well with your spouse with some level of understanding, it boosts their own confidence about what they're doing, and that can help. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I like the communication part, because I think that in relationship, it's all about communication and communicating well, communicating without any ambiguity, communication that's the partner would understand without any reading further meanings into it. I think that also helps. Let me read a few comments.
Dr. Atta, before, can I say something just to add up to what? So I just want to, in summary, the anxiety that is associated with sex can be multifactorial and it can be varying. And the only way in which you can get to the root of it is via honest communication. And once you engage in honest communication and you do not get solutions, it is advisable that you speak to a professional. And I would want to add that sex is not between the legs, the individual legs. Sex is actually between the ears. And it is what goes on in the mind that matters, and not what is going on in the lower limbs, but whatever is going on in the mind. Yeah.
Wow. I like the honest communication bit and what goes on in the mind and in the ear, because if here is correct, down there to be correct.
Down there will be correct, exactly.
All right, okay, so let's read some. I can't read all of them. Dan Taylor, happy to join this meeting at this time. Greetings from Dan Taylor. Senior, somebody's asking you, is saying, when sex is not done well, how should sex be done well? So note it down and we'll come back to that. Dr. May, I would want you to respond to this one quickly. What do you do when your partner feels pain after every sexual intercourse?
So there are a number of reasons why my partner, you're referring to female, right? There are lots of reasons. There could be an infection. There could be a history of sexual abuse. There may be even some scarring. There's some medical reasons why sex is painful or can be painful. In fact, these are listed among some of the sexual disorders, and treated. So if the pain is caused by a medical condition, then of course the medical people have to attend to it. If it's from an experience that has caused the woman to tighten up, this is because she's back in that place where she experienced pain. So the memory alone can cause her to have pain, or the man may be too big, or there are a lot of reasons. So again, this is where the honest communication comes in. Sometimes if, and then again, I'm sure we'll talk about vaginismus and all the other conditions that can also bring up pain, and there's actual pain disorder. But if you don't tell your spouse that I am experiencing pain when we are doing it at this point, or when we are in this position, you're not honest with your communication, you will always have the pain, So again, the early stimulation helps, the foreplay helps to put the person in that frame of mind. So you said if it's okay up here, it's going to be okay down there. Putting that person can relax that person. It may ease the pain. What I sometimes recommend to couples is a little bit of wine. Share a glass of wine. And that also can calm you down a bit. Massage is 100% perfect for things like this. If you're not even going to have the actual sex act, at least you see that there is some response, which tells you that, okay, the next time you try it, maybe there won't be any pain. So these are things we have to work on, but we can work on them only if we know that there's a problem. If you know that you are too big and she's experiencing pain, you know you are too big. You know what I mean? But then again, if you're normal size, then sit her down, perhaps tell her that something is wrong. What's going on with you? And encourage her to talk.
If it's too big, maybe we can to help, wouldn't it?
Not all the time.
Okay. Maybe. All right, thank you. Let me read some more. Francisca says, I'm really loving this seminar. George Kweku Anochi, we need more of such seminars. George, that is what we are trying to do. Richard and Atimbego says same. Harry Hagan, we need regular healthy seminars like this. Couples need a lot. Yeah, we are doing. Kwame says the number of people on the platform alone shows shows sex is a problem in marriages. Kwame, I disagree with you because we've had seminars that we've had close to 400, 500 people. That was nothing related to sex. So yes, so I disagree with you on that point. Yes, there are problems too, but the number of people on this platform is because they're interested about mental health, marriages and all that, not specifically about sex and all that. Yeah. Because we've had seminars, we've had 300, 400 participants there. So please share from Bright Axiase, please share the recorded version. It will be on YouTube. Stanley to everyone. If you write good English, I would be able to read, but if you write the shorthand one, I cannot read. Stanley. Faithful, love, chapel. Most men jump on their women like a naked banana during sex. No romance, just pam, 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 pam. Oh. Francisca, I love Francisca. Please listen to this question. Francisca says, I love sex a lot and becomes very wet easily, even when I'm close to my partner. Is it normal? Yes or no? Isaac, is it normal? Yes or no? So that
I think you are blessed.
Okay.
You are blessed.
You are blessed. Okay. So Francisca, the answer is you are blessed. Pastor Antoine Novi Clover has asked a lot of questions here. What is the first question? What is the weekly limit of sexual orgasm for a man that is psychologically safe? Number of orgasms for a week. As for this one, it is between, okay, Ike, okay.
No number, feel free.
No number, thank you very much. That's exactly what I was going to say. Question number two.
As much as you can take, so feel free.
Feel free. Question number two. Does nutrition have any effect on sexual desire and performance? How? List some food, please. Hey, Pastor.
Yeah, so Dr. May mentioned some of them already. A little wine would do, because wine is known to be an aphrodisiac. Chocolate is also a very good aphrodisiac. Avocado is a good aphrodisiac. Strawberries, and then all of these things are very good aphrodisiacs that can stimulate you from basically natural food.
Okay. Question number three. How does a man whose spouse requires sex 3 times a day handle this demand in order to keep the relationship healthy without cheating? His question is ambiguous, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Okay, let me read it again. Your wife is demanding 3 times. Is it that the 3 times is too much for you or is too small for you? So you are going on cheating. Let me read it again.
Doctor, we understand. Don't repeat it. We understand. We understand.
I want to understand it.
You want to understand
the question.
Then read it again.
Okay, I take it up for me.
No. So he's saying that the wife or probably the spouse demands 3 times a day, right? Maybe he cannot put up with it. So how can he fulfill it so that the wife or whoever is demanding 3 times does not cheat? If he does, he's not able to fulfill it. That's what he means.
He says, how does a man whose spouse requires sex 3 times a day handle this demand in order to keep the relationship healthy without cheating? Cheating on whose part? He, the man, or the woman?
No, the woman.
Let me address this.
Okay, May, please go ahead.
Okay, so first and foremost, we have to also recognize that women are a little bit more passionate and aroused during certain times of the month. You know, this was designed so that there would be copulation, childbirth, and everything. So is this man saying it is every day, or at certain time, because maybe if she's asking for this thing maybe 5 times during the month, he's seeing it as every day. So he should recognize this, that it's not all the time. There may be times when she might not want it. So during the times when she does want it, if he can, he should oblige. If not, he can promise that I will do this later for you, or engage in some form of intimacy that will suffice. If you tell the woman that if I come back later, we'll have some wine and then I'll be here for you, or you massage me and then we can do it, she might not be willing to do the massage. So it's a negotiation. You know, if you know you cannot perform 3 times a day, I don't think for most young men, I actually checked before the webinar, that it's not unusual for men to have 3 or more times a day. And so why should it be for women? You know, but bear in mind that it could be the time of the month that is making her more, you know, inclined for sex.
Okay, final. Isaac, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it's more rigid to demand, 3 times a day. I think sex should be spontaneous, it should be natural, it shouldn't be forced. People should just, it should come without, people making it routine. I remember one of my marriage counselors, the premarital counselors, he said, for him and his wife, on the Wednesday evening, Tuesday, I said, I was saying in my head, no, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be forced, it shouldn't be routine, it shouldn't be mechanical. If the relationship between the two of them is going well, some things become more spontaneous and sex won't be stressful at all. So there can be intimacy every day, but not sex every day. There can be intimacy every day, but not sex every day. Yes.
Okay, question number 4. How does a man manage psychological utterances that tend to quench sexual desire or erection? Hey, Pastor, your question is there.
Well, I think you should have an honest conversation with your spouse about the impact of those words on you. Have that conversation with them. Yes, exactly. And again, you should be able to also know yourself, so that words don't determine who you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, from Samsung. I think a lot of marital sexual issues with anxiety and their inability to perform depend on the understanding of the act. First of all, we fail to talk about our difficulties, which could make sex interesting and enjoyable. It could be what either partner likes or dislikes. Also, when either partner wants to be exceptional during sex, it could lead to anxiety, sharing his opinion. Well, Sheila, the recordings will be on YouTube from Monday. Please, what is the name of the woman on the panel? Her name, you can see her name clearly there. Dr. May Wolf Caesar. She's a consultant clinical psychologist. Pastor Antoine again. Can a spouse talk the sexual partner into growing to be the right size or the right position and the right rhythm? Pastor, I love your questions. Can a spouse talk the sexual partner into growing to be the right size and right position and right rhythm, etc.? Ike, for you.
Yeah, I think that, when it comes to penile size, we need to be very, very careful. There are some people, you can't really change it. I even wonder whether you can change someone's penis size. It's difficult. Life is not that simple. I think that, like Dr. Azusong talked about, sometimes it's not really the size, but it's about what you do with what you have. So I think that with this, the person should learn how to satisfy the spouse. Some women, there are different things that make a woman even reach orgasm. Some women, even penetration doesn't help them at all. It may even be clitoral stimulation or something that makes them reach orgasm. So you need to have that conversation with your spouse. Find out what turns them on. Find out how they want to be stimulated. Then, go along that side. But to things about penis size and stuff like that can be very, very, difficult to fix. But there should be some conversation going on between the two of you.
All right. Can I add on to this?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so that's very true. You don't need a large penis to be able to satisfy a woman. In as much as a large penis is an add-on and can make sex more satisfying, you necessarily do not need a large penis to satisfy a woman. With regards to penile size, can something be done about it? Yes, there are ways in which the penis can become bigger, and certain research has shown that if the penis is such that if it is not used for a very long time, right, it suffers from disuse atrophy and it can become smaller. If a person is becoming bigger and there's presence of fat around the pelvic area, it can cause the penis to appear to have retracted. You understand? And so there are certain activities in which you can engage in that can at least increase the size of the penis. The penis is such that the more sex you have, right, the more it maintains its size and increases its size gradually. And that is the trick about it. But if you go long months and years without having a pineal erection, the size of the penis is likely to decrease.
Yes,
Okay.
and also a caution there. Now there are all kinds of people selling all kinds of things online, purporting to increase your penis size. You need to be very, very careful.
Are not true.
Yes, very, very, very careful about those medications. They are all false. So be very, very careful. Yes.
Faith Love Chapel. Yes, there must be communication in sex. Talking when having sex is very important. Okay. Faith Love Chapel. Wada husband. Lady Na, great submissions. Faith Love. Some pastors preach what they don't practice. Miss Ajit is a yes. So, Lady Na, comparison brings unnecessary pressure and stress. I think that has been emphasized. Letitia says, ish. I think I have to jump some of these things. Faith Love. If you are too experienced in sex, please don't opt for a virgin to marry. What's your do you agree or you do not agree? Esther, please mute yourself. Esther, please mute yourself.
Okay.
Esther, good. Dr. May, do you agree or do not agree? It says, if you are too experienced in sex, please don't opt for a virgin to marry. Do you agree or you do not agree?
I do not agree.
I don't agree.
Okay, all my panelists don't agree. Okay, all right, thank you. Natek. Primary to everyone, how come there was no anxiety during the olden days? Primary, how did you know that? Modern women are too complex. Unless you kiss from head to toe. Why? There was no foreplay in the olden days. Women never told their husbands that they were underperforming to create anxiety. Women never suffered in silence. Primary, were you there?
No, but Dr. Ada, I think that, in a way, there's some point somewhere. I think now women tend to now learn more about sex. So before they even get involved, they know a bit more. So that influences their expectations about what should happen. But those days, there was not much access to some information, unless you are taught. Now people can go on the internet and learn all kinds of things. So it makes the modern person, not just women, have a certain mindset and expectations about sex, and that can create that anxiety.
Dr. Isaac, I beg to differ. I beg to differ here.
we are talking about communication, encouraging couples to communicate, right? So now women are communicating. Before, zip. Now they are telling you. So those women back there probably wanted more, probably wanted some diversity or anything, but they didn't say it. Now we are telling them, communicate. So now they are communicating, you know?
So, Noel Ete Aglo, why are you sharing your screen at this moment? Jadish. And so I think expectation is also another issue when it comes to sexual satisfaction. I mean, a whole lot of themes have been mentioned, which clearly suggest that we need to do a part 2 of this, and make it more generally, not restricted to marriage. Okay, so let me read a few more. I have 30 messages, which I don't think I can read all. And my questions that we prepared, we've not exhausted all of them. So most likely there will be a part 2 of this. Let me read this question. Adi Gold, I didn't know that men had performance anxiety. I think even beyond sex, performance anxiety on how the man performs generally as a father and as a husband or lover, etc. Amen. Sorry. Oh. She didn't know, but now you know. You can get some of these ideas here. Now you know that there's performance anxiety. When the woman says certain things, psychologically, it can give you that anxiety. Meanwhile, Techno says, I've been married for 6 years. I didn't know where my husband's turning point is. He doesn't show any sign of excitement during sex. And after the act, he just turns and sleep. He doesn't communicate anything about sex with me. And when I initiate a conversation, it's not encouraged. I just give him sex because I am his wife and not for pleasure. What can I do to make this work? Honest communication. That is the first thing that I'll say. But what do you say, May?
This unfortunately happens a lot in marriage, where some people, due to their upbringing, to their religious beliefs or whatever, see sex as something that is a duty and not necessarily for pleasure. So even when the men or the women have an orgasm, it's like that's the natural thing. You know, they don't even put their minds into what's going on. You know, so if I've been brought up to see sex as how to get my wife pregnant or how to, yes, have children, I'm a woman and it's my duty, then I'm not going to necessarily enjoy it. And if again, the foreplay is very minimal, again, the woman may not get to that point. Here we have a woman asking, you know, why? She wants to talk about it, but then you have some men telling you that they don't want a post-mortem of the sexual act. They're done, they've had an orgasm and they are good to go. That is so wrong, but unfortunately it happens. And I saw someone asking that we need to preach this to couples, not just about submitting to your husband and loving your wife, but these things are just as important because we are seeing how important sex is to marriage. So if we don't talk about how you not putting yourself into the act can make your spouse anxious, can make your spouse depressed, we're going to have a lot of couples having sex just because it's a duty. We're going to have a lot of trouble in marriage. So we actually need to talk about these things. Let men see and let women also see that it's a pleasurable act. Permit me, please, to bring out something from the Bible. We are told at one point that Jacob and Esau observed or caught or spied on their parents being romantic. That tells you that as far back as that time, the man and the woman were showing each other love. Whether they were having sex, we don't know. But the thing is, it wasn't in their bedroom. Their public display of affection was so public that their children saw it.
I'm not hearing all the time. Has frozen.
So this is what we need to get young people or people going into marriage or people already in marriage to understand that it's not just a dutiful thing. It's something that's supposed to bring you pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you've said it all. There is this question by Kuti Etel. I don't like sex. Is it normal? I'm worried. Ike.
Yeah, maybe the next time we may go into the details of some sexual dysfunctions. You know, there are all kinds of sexual dysfunctions and disorders that influences a person's sexual behavior. So if you realize you have no desire for sex, you need to see a professional for help, because we need to evaluate you to find out why, because it's not normal. Yes.
Okay. So Ethel, it is not normal. You need to be evaluated and assessed and examined by a professional. That's pure and simple. Yeah. And please do that. It is for you, it's pleasure for you to enjoy. So it is not normal that you cannot enjoy the lessons that God has granted. Linda has asked a very interesting question. Apart from sex, who do I give this to? Who takes it first?
What is the question?
The question, yes.
What are the practical ways a couple can become intimate apart from sex? Apart
Okay,
from sex,
I'll start.
Apart from sex, how can they become intimate? Okay, May.
Well, we talked about foreplay, and foreplay could be a host of things. You know, Dr. Newman said some women have been brought to orgasm even just without penetration, you know. So if they're not going to have sex for whatever reason, they can kiss, they can fondle each other, you know, so long as they're doing this, knowing that this is who we are in this relationship. So the penetration itself is the means to an end. There's so much that's happening before we get there. So the actual desire, arousal, everything is happening before the sex act. And that is more intimate than the sex act. Because if, no matter how much foreplay you engage in, if I don't get aroused, then I'm not going to enjoy the sex act. Like the lady said, I'll do it for my husband because it's a duty. So if we can think of the foreplay as the real intimacy, as the real bond before the penetration, then we are going to have intimacy outside of the sex act. Okay. I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
You see, if you read her question, I want you to take it again, and I would ask her just a few questions too.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure she can respond to your questions, but her question is, what are the practical ways a couple can become intimate apart from sex? So apart from the penetration, what other ways can they become intimate?
Yeah.
So
that's what I wanted to be sure that is what her question is. So like May said, you can be intimate with your partner without necessarily having penetration through foreplay. And sometimes in my therapy, sometimes some of the things that I do, like the woman who someone asked the question with regards to, I have been married for 6 years, and up till now, I do not know where my husband's point is or erogenous zone is. There is something we call sensate focus therapy, where the couple are allowed to touch each other as much as they can to learn about the partner's body without having sex. And if you do this and do this properly, it can be so satisfying and arousing to the extent that the woman can get an orgasm from it. And this would also help you to identify the erogenous zones of the woman, of your partner. When I talk about erogenous zones, I am talking about what we loosely use as my partner's weak point, or where the feelings are. And the erogenous zones vary. Another thing which is very important is that intimacy is not all about having sex. You need to understand your partner's love language and respond to your partner's love language. If your partner's love language is the act of giving, the mere fact that you have gone to your wife's office to give your wife a bouquet of flowers alone can make your wife even get an orgasm. In other situations, there have been situations and articles, case report series, where people have had an orgasm just during physical exercise alone. They are just exercising, stretching and doing, or having yoga, and they have gotten orgasm. And so there are so many ways in which you can get an orgasm without necessarily penetrating. And that answers one of the questions with where a person asked, is sex the only way in which you can get an orgasm? No, there are several ways in which you can get orgasm. And one of those ways is exercise. And people have even gotten an orgasm just sitting down alone and minding their own business, what we call mind-gasm. You are just sitting down thinking alone and you have gotten an orgasm. So there are so many ways in which you can get intimate without necessarily having sexual penetration.
All right, thank you. iPhone says, I don't usually get to spend time with my partner. And there is that time, the month, when I'm so much in the mood, but I don't get what? I don't get. Does this have a relation to my anxiety levels? Because I'm always anxious about what I don't even know.
Yeah, it could.
Okay.
Yeah, it could, but we cannot, I cannot say for a fact that it is the reason why you are having, because I have not been given the opportunity to take a relevant history from you to be able to understand the social dynamics and things that are going on. But yes, it could.
Yes, and if I may add, there are certain time of the month that a woman may find, those pleasures more, especially before ovulation, because of the levels of luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone is one of the hormones that are produced, so when the levels are up, especially before, ovulation. I think God did it that way so that people can have sex and have kids, in that way. And so if you're a woman and you are really, really in the mood, you need to be very, very careful because it's likely that there's an egg lingering around to meet a sperm. And that's why some people become pregnant without even, planning it, so that around that time, that is it. Yes.
All right, let's discuss one question before I come back to the questions. It's about libido. It's about libido, which can alternate. The man will have a high libido, the woman will have a lower libido, or the woman will have a high libido and the man will have a lower libido. When there are libido issues between the couple, what is the best way to deal with this?
Okay, so let me say this. So don't have sex because you feel like having sex. Have sex because it's nice to have sex and it's okay. Because if you are waiting for libido before you have sex, you may miss out on a lot. So in your minds, have that, conscious effort that, that mindset that, I can have sex with my spouse anytime. Then even if you are not in the mood, when you start intimacy and touching each other, you are likely to get in the mood, but if we are waiting for libido, it may be difficult, so do not make it a libido issue. especially when you realize that there are differences in terms of your arousals, and make sure that, you know, almost all the time, something like that is happening, intimacy is happening, and don't have sex because you have libido. Otherwise, you may miss out. That is what I would
Okay.
advise.
Dr. May.
Yes, again, with the libido, we know that the things that can influence the libido. So we've all talked about the specifications, let me put it that way. So some people may have a low sex drive or low libido from natural causes, you know, maybe Dr. Arthur Isaac has been talking about these hormones, you know. Somebody may have what we call a lifelong situation. They were born with it, or they've had it for a long time. Or the libido may be affected because of something that happened to them, what we call an acquired problem. So there might have been, let's say, a sexual violent act that has caused you to just be put off sex entirely. So then, of course, there's hardly any desire or drive or libido. Or it could be situational, which is maybe your partner not being attractive enough, or there's some conflict in the family. So the libido, again, can fluctuate, as you're saying, based on a lot of circumstances. If we recognize, that is why when you're in a marriage, you have to know your partner. If you communicate enough to know that, okay, this happened to me and that's why my libido is not as high as yours. Let's face it, I am not. It could even be personality differences. You know what I mean? I may have what we call an avoidant personality. I'm not too cool with these things, you know, and I may be the man, or the one may be the opposite. When we communicate and we know that we are not on the same level, then it means that you may have to work a little bit more for me to reach your level. Or as Dr. Newman said, I will do my best, because this relationship, this marriage is supposed to last regardless. So if I can stimulate you enough in some other way to make you have your orgasm, achieve your orgasm, I will do it. But if you don't tell me, if you're not open enough to say, I can't reach you, I can't meet you, you know what I mean? Maybe because of situational factors, or maybe I grew up in a home where this, then we're going to have problems. So again, it comes back to the communication and the desire to please your partner.
Good. All right. That settles for the libido question. Augustina, nice program. Please, I'll be grateful if such talks can be given in our various churches for married couples. Okay. We'll do our best to get to that point. Samsung, experience counts. I am married, but leaving room to learn during marital sex is a trick. Sorry. You tend to enjoy each other more than ever. Ready to discover, don't wait to be ready. Communication is key. Philip, your question has been answered. Sorry. Philip, another question, but okay, what do you do when your spouse is so adamant and wouldn't want to talk about the sex act when you both know the performance didn't go well? What should I do?
Okay, so if I may come in, sorry, if
Okay.
what I've realized, oh, sorry, Dr. Susan, please
go ahead, Dr. May, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say that when it comes up in therapy like this, you know,
I think
it might be because the man is too shy or too ashamed. So it isn't always because he doesn't want to hear your concerns. It may be that he is ashamed of the performance. He doesn't know how to do it any different or any better. So if he doesn't talk about it, then he's been an ostrich. It means it's not there. So again, it would be it'd be good for you to seek help, professional help. Perhaps for him to even tell the therapist why he has problems with sex. And that's when we're going to find out whether his upbringing or something happened to him, or hey, let me put it that way. You know, because some people won't talk about it because it brings back memories, or they are ashamed of their own performance. So that's why they don't want the postmortem. They will tell you, don't, we are not talking about it. Because each time you bring it up, it just tells them or makes them more aware of their deficiency. You know, so therapists will help.
But okay, so therapy would help to address the deficiency, isn't it?
Yes, to find out the cause of the deficiency in order to
Address it.
Mhm.
Redmi is asking, can partners pray just before sex as a way of creating a mutual affection?
Yes, hallelujah. You are a couple. And what God has put together, let no man asunder.
Thank you very much. To Ashley, too often, particularly in long-term relationship, we stop touching each other unless we want sex. Don't let that happen. Make a point of touching your partner throughout the day. That could be kissing, heart, stroking his cheek, even running your fingers through his hair. Okay. Thank you, Ashley. Samsung, women can have orgasm without penetration, but can a man have sexual pleasure without penetrating and ejaculating? Azuson.
Yes, it's a definite yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody has Galaxy has said something that's quite interesting here. Personal hygiene. Personal hygiene has a role to play in pleasurable sex. A bad body and mouth odor can turn a partner off. So that if your partner has these issues, the honest communication and helping, unless that I think there is a medical reason for this, and that is where you have to see a professional. But if it's just personal hygiene on page or they are done, and on vessel between the or they are done there, that one they have to that one there you have to talk about it and help him to bath. That way probably you can pull him to the bathroom. It's often, I don't know about the women, it's always the men who don't like to bath. So if it's the man, help him to bath in the evening by joining him in the bathroom and doing some of these things together. Abna, some of us don't want any. Abna, some of us don't have any libido at all. So if you won't come, now your own wahala. So, okay, Abna, okay. I think that we are. May, this one goes to you as the final one, then we'll wrap it up. My husband does not want to have sex whenever he's home from work with the excuse of being stressed for the day. He prefers to sleep, and that makes me angry most times. We can be in the room for weeks without him touching me. I initially thought it was due to his upbringing, but it's getting out of hand. I get fed up of complaining about the same issue with him. Please, what do I do?
Well, the man might have a low sex drive. So he is in it for the duty. Let's put it that way. So then all the things we have talked about before, you know, it isn't everybody who wants to have sex. One of the things I've come to know, it's a very touchy area, is that some men get married because society expects them to, and they don't particularly want to be with women. You know, we don't want to use this word just like that, you know, misogynist, but there are quite a number of men. And then, of course, there are also some men who really, really are not interested in women. So then if you marry a man like that, he will sleep with you as and when, so that it doesn't look so bad. So again, he may not tell you, especially if he doesn't want sex. He won't tell you. So you will have to find ways of getting yourself in that spot where when he does have the sex, it will be enjoyable for you. Because you're saying that he's coming home from work and he says he's stressed. What about when he doesn't work? What about weekends? Is it the same thing? So these are some things that you can point out to him. If you keep asking him and he feels pressured, perhaps the performance anxiety. And I talked about carrying things over from work. You said for years it's been happening. Yes, for years he's been working, you know, so whatever stress he's coming home with is still there. But then try and see what he's like weekends when he can't use that excuse. That would be the opportune time to sit down and say, let's talk about this. You know, even if we can't talk, I found out this helps couples. Write it down and share. And then we'll go on from there. But check out what he's like when he is not coming home from work. Is it the same thing? So that you change, you vary your days for approaching him for sex.
That's a good one. Okay, if he does not go to work, what about that day? That's a good one. Yeah, okay. Azusa, you want to add something?
Is it my final words?
No.
Okay.
I
Was it?
thought you wanted to add something to
No.
Dr. May.
No.
Yes.
No, she has killed it.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay. She has killed it. Yeah, she's nailed it right there. Okay, on this note, I think that will bring the session. Send Nandi Wolanyo, how can I personally get in touch with Dr. May personally? Okay, send a direct text to her shortly and she'll respond to it. Send a direct one to her. There is a question from Zili. Zili, unmute yourself and ask your question. Hello, Zili. Hello, Zili. Okay, Zili did not respond. Banzi Frederick, unmute yourself. Banzi, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I think Dr. Isaac was saying that sometimes it depends on the modernization. That's why ladies learn a lot, they know so much. In a way, men who are weak in sex. And I buy his idea very, very well.
Go ahead, Banzi. Is that all?
Yeah, so I like his contribution. But it's like Dr. May rejected that. He said no to that. In fact, it's very, very true that ladies of today are exposed. The exposure is so much to extend that when their libido is high, more than the men, they think otherwise. They trouble them left, right. By the end of, even making them to go out and buy some of this drugs, enable to surprise the ladies. Why? Because men, they don't want this risk. And they try to also put up or take some of these drugs outside there, try to surprise the ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, Banzi. But you see, her disagreement is very much in order. The women now are more assertive now, more exposed, more reading, more learned, which is very true. So that exposure, that assertiveness cuts across life experience. So just one bit. What about work? When I do one of it's help. Banzi, please lower your hand. Gabriel,
yes,
unmute and ask your question.
Doc. Hello.
Banzi, you've had your turn. Gabriel,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yo.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Gabriel.
Please, the presentation has actually been nice, but I just want to be sure. We were talking about when you starve yourself for a long period of time for sex, it may have a shrink in pennies. So I just wanted to find out, for instance, let me say you starve yourself or like due to certain things or due to distance wise, you can stay away for about 5 or more months, or let me say 5 to 7 months before having sex. Would that want to have any effect on the pennies?
Dr. Azuson, this is your question.
Yeah, so if for very genuine reasons, let's say you have traveled out of the country, you are unable to see your partner, obviously you will not be able to have sex. But as a man, most of the time, you would have erections during sleep. Those erections, those erections can occur. And sometimes you may even sleep and have wet dreams. All these are reactions that serve to maintain the posture of the stature of the penis that I am talking about. So these were the things that I was trying to refer to. But what I said does not necessarily mean that you cannot go 5 months without having sex. But it was in response to the question of penile enlargement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So Gabriel, are you okay?
Yes, please.
Good. 5 months, if nothing will happen to you, you can still do whatever you want to do. People go to prison, come back and have children, and they come and do stuff. We have traveled 6, 9 months, and we come back and we are okay. So relax, you'll be fine. Okay, can you please lower your hands if you are done with your question? I think that we are past our time. We've done a good job to what we wanted to do. There are issues that have come up whilst we are discussing this. There are more questions that I was not able to ask. So we'll definitely find time and do a part 2 of this session. For me, at least clearly, sex is pleasurable and it has enormous benefits to the couple. And couples should aspire to have lots of them, in as far as they are okay with it. But most importantly is communication, honest communication. For whatever problem that there is between the couple, honest communication, I would say that is the first aid to the problem. And if you have that honest communication, as our facilitators have said, you may be more than halfway to dealing with the problem until I think that honest communication should deal with the problem before you go to seek for professional help, unless it gets out of hand that you have to go and see them. So for me, as couples that we've met here, if there is, perhaps the timing of wanting to have that honest communication is also important. You need to choose the right atmosphere to have that honest communication so that each of you will be forthcoming with what you want to say. On this note, I want to thank all of you, over 270 participants, for joining us today. I want to thank you so much for being part of this every day. Then again, thank you to our able facilitators, Dr. May Wolf, Caesar, Dr. Azuson, Senior. Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure that same time next month, when we are in good health, we have life, we meet again. We have a long weekend coming up. Couples, if you have any issues, go and address them. And have a nice weekend. Pleasurable ones, of course.
Can I have a...
Oh, as you saw, I've not finished. If I finish, I'll finish.
Okay.
If I finish, I'll finish. So the request for the recording it to be on YouTube, hopefully from Monday onwards. Just the title of this seminar, and Dr. Azuso, say what you wanted to say clearly.
Yes, I just wanted to say my last words, and then just throw in a teaser to the 200 participants who have not left yet, by just sharing my screen briefly, just 1 minute. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. What is this to all the participants? No, not Dr. Atta or Dr. May.
I see both fruits.
Yeah, to any of the participants, anybody can just unmute and then say it. This is just a teaser for those who stay through and then stayed to the end. Anyone? All right, so time is already fast spent, and I would just want to say that this is someone wants to say it. Banzi. All right.
Well, you've had different answers. Some are saying testicles, penis, clitoris.
Okay, very good. So this is an anatomical structure of the clitoris of a woman. And so the clitoris that a lot of people know as just that tip, tiny ball over there, is just what only the eye can see. But this is the real structure of the clitoris. And if someone says that the clitoris is very sensitive and you are touching only the clitoral hood, which is the small hook over here, and leaving all these parts, so you can imagine the pleasure you are denying your partner. This is just to throw in the point that nobody just gets up one day and knows how to have sex. But as a caution and a reminder to all of us that sex is an art that needs to be learned. And I'll end here, and we'll continue on our next sessions.
Doctor, you've put pressure on all the men. I beg, you put pressure on all of us. Now we have to go and search. We have to go.
I was thinking just like you. That this man, what has he brought? Because what we know is only the hook. Now we have to go into exploration. Serious exploration. Anyway, that is good knowledge. Anyway, that now we can have a much bigger place to excite our partners. We have a much bigger space to excite our partners. I wouldn't let you, Azuson, still the last show. Isaac, what do your last words?
Well, I would say that sex is deeply spiritual and also deeply physical. There is nothing unspiritual about sex, and even the Bible talks a lot about sex and how it must be done. Husband loves, it says that enjoy the wife of your youth. Let her breast satisfy you all the days of your life. Imagine Amen. God talking about breast. And so sex is deeply spiritual and also deeply physical. And the same way you plan what you call your finances, you should also plan to do sex well in marriage. And I tell couples, if you are not satisfying your spouse, what do you expect them to do? You have caged them in a marital context, and yet you are not putting in any effort to satisfy them. So a lot of people are trapped in marriage. They are not satisfied sexually, yet they cannot go outside the marriage to satisfy themselves. So it's a great disservice to your spouse if you neglect their sexual needs and also expect them to be faithful to you. It's a great disservice. Don't trap them and yet not put in any effort to satisfy them sexually. So listen to them and satisfy their sexual needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies first, but Dr. May, you have the last word here.
Hey, so for me, this is for the men. You know, we can't have sex without you. So if you are having issues with sex and they say, Bearman, so please, we want you to someone else. We want you to tell us exactly what is going on. You know, because we now understand that pressures from work can make it difficult for you to even achieve an erection. We talked about if it's good up here, it will be good down there. So if work pressures are too much and you come tell her, yeah, today I'm so, you know, I'm just not here. But I promise you, you give me a good massage and I'll service you. We need to be able to talk to our spouses and tell them, instead of keeping it in and sleeping on the couch and going away and being with the boys, we're going to create more anxiety because we will think you guys are going somewhere else. So that's my last advice. Thank you.
Hello, I dropped off briefly. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good, good. So on that note, before the technology, that's me in the harm again. I would say thank you for all of you coming. And we'll meet same time again next month with a part 2 of this show. And have a very nice weekend. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Olivia, I see you. Thank you for coming. Lady Na, thank you for coming. Kizito, thank you for coming. Genevieve, I see you.